Hello everyone, it's Cleo here, and today this video is going to be explaining my theory on how G4 became G5 story-wise. So we're going to take the end of the G4 cartoon and see the beginning of the G5 movie and kind of work out how point A got to point B. Now this was going to be my theory and me explaining it, but then Lockie came up with a way better idea than mine, and mine just seemed totally rubbish by comparison, so I'm going to let him take it away with his own idea of exactly how we got from point A to point B. Let's see what he's got.
Hello everyone, this is Nerdy Nom Nom here to present to you a bunch of stuff I made up. Okay, so we're starting off from the ending of the original Friendship is Magic series. Yes, with big Twilight and everything, I hate it, but I accept it. Moving on. Okay, so after the ending of the show, Celestia tells Twilight that she's worthy to be her successor, as in full-on replacement. And since Twilight is replacing her, she and Luna are ready to go. This comes out of nowhere and Twilight is surprised. But Celestia explains that she and Luna were never meant to be ruling Equestria for as long as they had done. She and Luna aren't like other ponies. It's not accurate to say they're ponies at all. Celestia and Luna are beings made of magic, essentially themselves being the sun and moon. They took on physical bodies as an intervention of sorts, to bring peace to the warring tribes in ancient Equestria, Pegasi, Earth ponies and unicorns, and protect them from the number of rising ancient magical threats at the time. It was only meant to be temporary. But Celestia especially became enamored with the people of Equestria after having spent so long watching them from afar. Their love for the ponies in Equestria, combined with the different magical threats that continued to appear, just kept them around. As a little side note, the idea that the unicorns had to raise and lower the sun and moon before Celestia and Luna's arrival is just a story. Before the sisters manifested themselves as ponies, the sun and moon moved on their own because they are the sun and moon. So Celestia and Luna depart, becoming one with the sun and moon again. Celestia explains to Twilight before she goes that Twilight will live longer than average as an alicorn, but even as Celestia's successor, she won't be immortal. Celestia tells Twilight that she trusts her with all decisions regarding Equestria's power structure and politics going forward, before leaving the physical Earth and taking her leave. Over 100 years pass before Twilight passes on her mantle as Equestria's ruler, mentoring her own successor in much the same way Celestia did with her. By the end of her rule, Twilight has aged noticeably. She passes away soon after appointing her successor. For 4 generations of rulers after Twilight, the same structure is kept. The current ruler choosing, mentoring, and appointing her own replacement. Just like Celestia did with Twilight. Over the 500 years of Twilight and her successor's reigns, Equestria changes a lot, geologically speaking. Further than Mount Everhoof, deep in the frozen and noticeably unexplored north, something changes. The cold weather and snow starts to climb further and further down south, slowly at first. The phenomenon is never explained and largely ignored as the north grows colder and more aggressive. The safe haven of the Crystal Empire is eventually overtaken by the cold as the lowering temperatures suddenly begin to drop even faster than they had in the past few decades. The ponies of the Crystal Empire seek shelter in the west with the Yaks, only to find out that Yak-Yakistan is iced over and abandoned. The exodus of the Yaks from their homeland occurred years ago, because they were the first to be pushed south by the cold. As the cold coming from the north continues to silently swallow people up, most of the ponies from the Crystal Empire go missing on the journey south. The few that bring news to Canterlot about the encroaching cold from the north sparks a years-long investigation that proves fruitless because no one can explain what's going on, and no one can get deep enough north to even find out where it's coming from. The princess ruling Equestria when the situation with the north starts to go into overdrive is the 4th princess down from Twilight. We'll call her Princess Dawn, just for ease here, and she's gotten noticeably older than all of her predecessors without finding an heir. The north continues to expand downward at an increasingly fast rate, getting faster and faster like a snowball going down a hill, forcing a total evacuation of Cloudsdale and, shortly after, Canterlot as well. Fights and arguments break out and discontentment is felt throughout the whole Equestrian population as more and more refugees are pushed further south, with more and more ponies sharing less and less space. calls for Princess Dawn to do something about the North freezing Equestria over grow louder and louder, leaving her in a difficult situation. Twilight's micromanaging was carried along in her successors, and in fact got worse with each new ruler because they all, starting with Twilight, thought that somebody being more on top of managing things was even better, and that would be for the best. At this point, Equestria has evolved into basically a nanny state that requires the constant company of its princess to function without major schisms and incidents. And the problem is, Dawn is needed as a mediator now more than ever. After all the ponies of Equestria are pushed far enough south, with hostilities continuing to grow between the crowded and now disillusioned masses, the very old Princess Dawn makes a final decision. She uses her magic to make 3 stones that are to be kept together as a very real representation of the union between the 3 pony races. While the stones are kept together, each one is officially assigned to a steward, representing the interests and voice of their race. After this, the princess disappears north to stop whatever caused Equestria to ice over. Months go by with no word from her, until the march of the cold weather stops. The princess's success is celebrated, but she's never seen again, and no one ever finds out what it was deep in the north that ever caused Equestria's ice age. The 3 stewards representing each race become the de facto power structure going forward. While the expansion of the North has been stopped, it hasn't been reversed. With nothing, the ponies of all 3 species have to build new lives for themselves, from nothing, in the southern peninsula. For several hundred years, the ponies lived and advanced in the south. The Pegasi eventually settled in the mountains as it was reminiscent of Cloudsdale, where most of the Pegasi who originally came to the south were from. The unicorns started to grow crystals and trees with their magic to break up the vast amount of hills and pastures in the southern peninsula, the project eventually turning into Bridlewood. The Earth ponies settled further towards the west, near the coastline. While the races were largely separated by where each type of pony tended to like to live the most, they still formed a single interconnected society. The land and the cities in the south were developed over the course of 200 years without incident. The ice that came from the north eventually melted away, changing much of the landscape north of the southern peninsula. While it did become habitable again, and technically you could go back and live there, the descendants of the ponies who traveled south had become too established to consider moving back to the north. Eventually, problems arose with the stewards. The Pegasus steward declared a Pegasus royal family with herself as its head, while the Unicorn steward relaxed and neglected their duties, while the Earth Pony steward attempted to exert more control over the Earth Ponies and even the other stewards. At a meeting, the 3 stewards of the time had a falling out, to put it lightly, over each other's conduct, despite previously having been friends. They each took their respective stone that they were trusted with and left on incredibly bad terms. This led to rumors spreading about each other that quickly extended to each steward's entire race and grew a little bit out of control. Travel between the 3 major homes of the different pony races broke down, quickly leading to rumors of what the other races were actually like, exaggerating and becoming more and more negative. As blind hate and paranoia grows between the pony races, magic quickly disappears from Equestria altogether. Almost 100 years go by, with the friendship between the races and the positions of the stewards being forgotten completely. The Unicorn steward simply gave up, the Pegasus monarchy was accepted as a replacement for the stewardship, and the Earth Pony steward refused to give control over to any form of successor. And then we have the G5 movie. Now, I do have some notes on this, like, as an example, I did notice that Sunny's map is all showing the southern coastline of the continent, something which was never seen on any G4 map. So I made up a whole big reason as to why all the ponies went from the north to the south, along the way trying to explain why the magical stones for each race are there, and why the sun and moon are moving by themselves, why Celestia and Luna aren't there, just kind of make some kind of bridge between the established lore of G4 and what we can tell about the established lore of G5.
And that's all for this video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to give it a like and leave a comment letting us know what you think might have happened or if you agree with this. Anyway, thank you so much for watching and don't forget to subscribe for more. Bye for now.